G'day, mate, and how the bloody hell are ya? Welcome to In the Back of My Head podcast, episode 64. It's a semi-weekly creative little journal podcast where I try and get the thoughts that are rattling around in the back of my head into a hot mic so I can make sense of them, put them into words rather than just jumbled thoughts. Though I think in words, I have an inner monologue. I'm astounded by those who don't. How do you perceive the world? Just through images or just dead silent? That'd be kind of nice. For those with a very active inner monologue, the way that you are perceiving the world, the way you are taking information and sifting it, what are the moments where you've had literally nothing? Where you've had no thoughts? What were those experiences? Was it bliss? Was it kind of terrifying? I find it quite joyful. When you'll realize there is no chatter. Very rare these days. It's very rare these days as we are bombarded by, obviously, the phone that I am recording into, the computer that I am sitting in front of. I have found myself on some days with 3 screens running all at the same time. I know there's been days, especially like a bad hangover. I'm sitting playing video games on the couch. I haven't got a gaming system rigged up for the couch at the moment, but when I did, playing games on the couch, and my laptop on one side playing a video, and my phone also receiving messages, and I look at myself and go, this is disgusting. Why can't I think straight? I ask myself. And the internet now is becoming more and more filled with shovel content, which it always has been. It always has been to a degree. I've been using the internet for, let's think about that. I wanted to carbon date myself, so I tried to log into MySpace as I was thinking, is that the first social media app I would have ever used? Who remembers? But it said, email not found. I assume they did a giant purge back in the day. I'm even not totally convinced it was running the entire time, but maybe it was the current version of MySpace was an iteration on the idea. Regardless, on the web for 15 years. And as anyone who grew up as a teenager, especially on the internet, as a weird kid, not a weird kid, but just a quiet kid. A quiet kid is a better example, a better phrase to use. For anyone who was a quiet kid, then the internet was their sanctuary. It was a possibility of self-expression, self-actualization, self-discovery, though perhaps obviously not as understood by a young mind. But just the fact that you could post up, here's the music that I'm listening to, and some people, perhaps they're just from people from your school, or perhaps they are randoms on the internet, go, hey, nice, I like what you like. And you go, what? I think we run away from the idea that we are social creatures a lot. In a sense of you shouldn't care what anyone else thinks. Just do what you want to do. Don't care what anyone else thinks, which is a lovely idea. And if you are capable of that, then fantastic. And there are plenty of things in life that you do need to do that will require that sort of attitude of, I don't know if this is going to take, I don't know if this is going to fly with the people, but I'm going to try it anyway, just because I really enjoy it. Or readjusting your expectations of the reaction you're expecting. When you put out a thing, not even your own creation, but if you put out something of just a recommendation, here's something that I enjoy, yada yada. How many times have we thrown up a thing into a story and been like, ooh, this is a movie that just changed my life, and no one responds to it, and you're like, ooh. Of course they didn't respond. It's a silly way of sharing things in a sense, but it is a beautiful thing to do, to just share our creations, but also just our recommendations, the things that are changing us, the things that are interesting to us, our little special interests. And the early days of the internet were 100% all about that. People building little websites for themselves. People having MySpaces. Not MySpaces. And when I was younger, it was a place to put my creativity. It was a space that makes sense, and still to this day makes sense to put stuff out like that. I've talked a lot about like drops in the ocean of content. And we do live in the age of content. But the other alternative in the world of music was the example when I was 15. I grew up with a dad who grew up in the 70s, seeing bands like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and fucking Creedence Clearwater Revival, pick a fucking band. And so I watched a lot of kind of docos and stuff like that about that kind of era. And I always thought, oh, well, you have to go and get signed to a label. And then when you have the internet, you don't have to do anything. And you can also upload terrible music. It doesn't matter. The bar has been so lowered. The amount of shit that I put up onto Bandcamp, that was just truly a waste of everyone's time. But not mine. Not mine to just put it out to share. It was a very exciting thing. And this came to mind recently because there's been a phrase that's been floating around the internet for some time now. I can't remember, actually. I should have put that into my little bit of research, and by research I mean I googled it for 5 minutes. I should have found where the phrase originated from. I saw it in a video recently, but it's really not the point. The point is there's a theory floating around at the moment called the dead internet theory. And if you're not aware of it, you already are. You are aware of it. You are aware of the concept, even if you aren't aware of the theory, Because how much of your time has been spent scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or YouTube and just encountering AI garbage? There's always been spam. Of course. There's always been ads, trash, low-tier content that is just there to engage you to try and get any amount of attention from you. The lowest amount of energy in to try and get the largest amount of energy out from a system. It's the podcast clips. Perhaps I'm guilty of that. But the podcast clips with the little running animations from video games, the runners, the auto runners, playing below it, with a side view of a fucking Family Guy as well. It's like putting an iPad in front of a toddler just to try and keep it shut the fuck up for a second, please. That's all it is. It is just flashing colours. How many times have we watched one of those videos of someone just trying to make precarious jumps in Minecraft? Why the fuck are we doing that to ourselves? Very low tier. But it's getting lower and lower and lower effort to make these things. And I know, because I do it. I've done it. I've done it in terms of like the amount of... I've done concept art. I've even put out art for one of my album covers was generated by AI. It was heavily edited, and it took me... I don't know how long it took me. I'd say 4 to 5 hours of like trial and error to figure out what I wanted to do. If I was being kind to myself, I could say I used it as a tool. But on the other side of that, I was looking at what I was doing and thinking, am I also cheating myself out of putting the time in to learn how to make this image without AI? I don't think I could have made that image without AI. Maybe that's maybe that's a bad example. But clipping podcasts, I don't for this one, but for the Vibe Union podcast, I was throwing that into an AI engine and it would spit out podcast clips. I'd have to do some editing, but it still sped things up. I guess within those two examples, that is a tool, but it is lowering the tier of effort. It is lowering the amount of effort you need to put into things, which on one hand, fucking great for small creators who are trying to market their material. But then when it comes to actually just generating the material itself from the start, the entire thing is generated by AI. There's a huge scene of conspiracy theory content on TikTok and YouTube and Reels and what have you, of AI generated images of, your typical pyramids, aliens, crop circles, what have you, space lasers, and then an AI generated voice Who's to say the script isn't AI generated and it's just taken from Wikipedia pages? Who's to say that wasn't just scraped? ChatGPT, can you spit out? ChatGPT knows Wikipedia, so you don't even need to do that yourself. Just say, hey, generate me a script, please, about this topic. Great. Or you know what? Just pick 3 conspiracy theory topics. Make 3 scripts, all about 30 seconds. Read them out for me. Stick it to this image. Upload that to TikTok. Think it's so goddamn much. Where's my cash now? AI has a use. It is a great tool set. It's a great tool set to eliminate a lot of things that we don't want to do. Just like any automation, though this is perhaps an acceleration that we have never seen before, but I think in general, automation usually, in a perfect world, does the things that we don't want to do. Fantastic. It's like when factory workers, and hear me out on this because it'll come full circle, when factory workers they all get up in arms when we start automating the factory line. We'll start losing our jobs. And what a pain in the ass, because like, hang on, do you want to do that job? Do you want to do the factory line job? Fuck no. But the issue is not there. The issue there is not automation. The issue there is capitalism. The issue there is the systems that are controlling this scenario that saying, yeah, we're going to automate the system so that we can just make more money. We're not going to give you any money. If you were just to pay them the same amount of money, or just subtract the number of hours that were needed with that many people that we don't need anymore because of automation, and give them the money, keep things ticking, just for the good of the people, fantastic. Beautiful. Core blimey. But if you just take the job and then kick them to the curb, then you can go fuck yourself. And that's the same what we're seeing with AI is, isn't this a beautiful thing that could be used to improve the creative output of so many people? And it has, for a lot of people, don't get me wrong, that should be what it's being used for. But what instead is being used for is kicking people to the curb. Kicking content creators, kicking artists, kicking people to the curb. And saying, fuck you, don't give a shit. And in the space of the internet, in a space where, for me and for many, many people, the point of the internet is just a place to share our art, our souls, our interests, our inspiration. It's the town square. It is our gallery. It is our workshop. It is our phone lines. It is our mailing system. It is everything. It was sort of everything to me from the very beginning. Once I had access to it, it really was like, oh, this is my little world now. This is where I live now. I live on the internet. And I have been called chronically online by a couple of mates before. But luckily, I also have the inclination to go out and build things in the physical world, in the physical space, in the community, a walkable community in Little Brunswick East where I can go and run my little poetry nights and then I can walk to the shops. I feel very connected to this space physically, but I live on the internet. And so to see it dying is terrifying. And where this came from, what triggered me, how I was triggered by a stat that I saw. Where was this study done? I saw a stat, I gotta find this. Hey, you know what? The company Thales, Thales, Thales or Thales, are a cybersecurity company, a cybersecurity leader, according to this article that I'm reading. They're there to protect critical applications, APIs, and data anywhere at scale. And they've been doing reports. They started reporting in 2013. This is their 2024 Imperva Bad Bot Report. It's a good band name, Bad Bot Report. If that's of interest to you and you're starting a band, all yours, mate. The Bad Bot Report, and look, there's a lot in here, but the main takeaway is that 49.6% of internet traffic, let's just say half at that point, 49.6% of internet traffic and interaction is bot generated. This is going to be a bit hyperbolic, but imagine walking down to the center of town. You've been in a coma for a minute. And you want to go and talk to some people. And you go down there, and every second person that you talk to, There's something off about them. There's something automated. There's something robotic. There's something cold. There's no soul there. Now, I say hyperbolic because that's not how the internet works. 49.6% of internet traffic and interaction is bot generated. That is a lot of other things. That is scraping. That is like gathering data from websites. That is not you interacting with them. There is a lot of attacks on websites that you don't really see or interact with either. There's a lot of this traffic is not interaction that you will actually experience. But a lot is. A lot is. It's the chatbots that we talk to now on websites instead of talking to a real person. And I know that makes you sound kind of old. It makes you sound like an old geezer. But it's... And I don't hate that either, actually, as well. As chatbots get better, then having a response at all is still good. I would prefer if they just paid in a proper tech support system. Fucking great. But if it's got to be a bot, if it's somewhat useful, I'll take it. But the most common thing that we're doing with those chatbots is saying, let me talk to a person. Let me talk to a person. Oh, let me talk to a person. Please let me talk to a person. And eventually they'll say, nah, no one's available. We fired everyone. Or how many times have you received a DM or have some sort of discussion online, be it in a comment section or a DM or what have you, and part of your brain goes, is this real? Is this a real person? Or is this a bot? Bots used to be very easy to see. You could really kind of spot a bot. But if you've ever spoken to ChatGPT, you know that it's getting creepy. We're losing the uncanny valley. We're driving upwards out of the uncanny valley into the Blade Runner summit. I've had that thought when responding to comments on my YouTube channel. Few and far between, but nonetheless, some of them I'm like, is that a real person that just said that? And then scrolling through Instagram. I scroll through Instagram a lot more these days than I've ever used to, because I have never really enjoyed Instagram as a platform just to consume content on. I'm more of a YouTube kid. But I've started scrolling on Instagram a lot more to consume art. And I've been saving collections of art. And now I'm getting to the point though, and I'm sure many people are as well, that they have to squint at every second piece that they find. Because, is that AI? Was that generated by something? And they have the AI tags, but it's a whack-a-mole situation. There's always people slipping through the cracks, or bots slipping through the cracks. And so I do eye off things. I was eyeing off a painting the other day that was by was he Polish? I think it was a Polish painter from like the 70s. I was looking at this on Instagram. I was like, was that AI? And then I looked it up. No, this guy painted this shit in the 70s. And the fact that I'm questioning that is hurting my brain, is making me very sad and scared for where we're headed with this. And it changes how we see these spaces as tools as well. There's an account that I follow that's all about music marketing, and I partly despise this account because the way it talks about music marketing. Perhaps I am just jaded, but it's all so social media based, as music marketing is, as any marketing is. And it floats very optimistic figures of like, this is the best time to promote your music, and I do partially agree with that. But there was a figure that they floated recently that said 5 billion people are on social media. And they were saying that not as a scary thing. They weren't saying that as, oh, you are just a drop in the ocean of content like I've talked about before. Rather, they were saying, as a marketing perspective, you have 5 billion people to market to. 5 billion people. Do you think there's 5 billion people on here? What's in the world, 8? Now, everyone needs to be online, such as the times that we live in. So maybe 5 billion people is right, but is 5 billion accounts the same as 5 billion people? Now, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. I'm just speculating, and this is all just talking about how this feels as like a creator and just as a consumer and just as a person who deeply appreciates and loves the space to share online. As someone with basically no audience, I still have such a deep love for this space, for being able to share with people, being able to having a space so I can put some stuff. And I know all my mates are the same, who try and keep off Instagram, which you should. But then there's also a space to put the things. And it's necessary, it's deeply necessary. It's not necessary. We never used to have it in the grand scheme of things. But now that we've got it, come on. So if there's 5 billion people, but is that actually half that? Which is still a shitload of people. But when you're then putting your things out there and you are being interacted with by bots, and then you check out their pages and they're generating content, you are now a drop in the ocean of AI generated content. So the art that you have made is now not only competing with other artists, which it should not be competing with, you should just be putting it out there for the sake of it. But then every part, of course, part of you is like, oh, I hope someone sees it though. I hope someone sees it and likes it. But now you're not only competing with everyone else who can make art that is infinitely easier to make thanks to modern tools, but then there's also AI that is then just copying everything you're doing and regurgitating it back to you. I keep flip-flopping on what I think of AI art in general. I do kind of like it for a personal artist to like generate concepts and stuff like that. I don't really hate that, that's fine. I don't like that being used in any industry where there's cash flowing, because pay concept artists for the love of Christ. And that's always the argument. Is that it's stealing jobs. Imagine automation stealing the jobs of the artists. That's just not where we expected it to go. But even if you take the monetary thing away and just speak to artists who are just putting stuff out for the fun of it onto the web, then it is still taking something away from you. It's a different currency. You'd like a little space. You'd like a little space on the gallery wall, and now there is no space left. For those of us who are putting things out and making no money off art, we're still losing our space in the ocean. We're still losing our space on the gallery wall. We're still being drowned. Look, so many. I love mixing analogies. An app got released recently called Social AI. It feels like a look into what actually is the dead internet gonna look like. And Social AI is a social media app where you are the only user on it. You are given your own private little social media site. And every thing that you see, and every interaction, every comment, every DM, everything is bots. You are only interacting with AI, but they're fake profiles. They've got names, they have little personalities, and they talk to you and they respond to things. And the point was, I'll read you the quote from the person who made the app. Social AI is designed to help people feel heard and to give them a space for reflection, support, and feedback that acts like a close-knit community. It's a response to all those times I felt isolated or like I needed a sounding board and didn't have one. I know this app won't solve all of life's problems, but I hope it can be a small tool for others to reflect, to grow, and to feel seen. In this loneliness epidemic that is so deeply ironic, given that we have the best tools for communication that humanity has ever had in its history. This level of connection that we have got that has never been seen before. And we feel so isolated. We feel so disconnected from any sense of community. For that to be an answer? Now this is just a small app that is cropped up, but like, is that not one of the saddest quotes you've ever heard? Humanity has connected itself while disconnecting its souls from one another. And my response to that was to build a little town where everyone knows my name and responds and actually talks to me. In a few years, it might get to the point when something like Instagram is actually useless. Again, to be hyperbolic, to be actually useless. Because you can put something out, you could put a little thing out as a content creator or what have you. Or even just to share with your mates, hey, I went down to the shops, I got this fucking great coffee. And suddenly, a wave of comments roll in. And you go, oh my god, all my family, all my people, all my friends are responding to you. No. Bots are responding to you. Desperately seeking your attention. Desperately seeking your clicks. So that they can rake in any amount of traffic to their websites, traffic to their pages, what have you. And you think, oh god, okay, this is too much. I'm just going to have a bit of a scroll just to kind of zone out for a minute. See what my mates are up to. Your mates aren't there anymore. It's just more AI generated slop. And you despair. Hyperbolic, but it's not far from the truth as it already is, mate. It's a petty response, it's a petty enjoyment that I get out of it, but to see very short-sighted ventures completely collapse in on themselves, and then they start throwing hands around, who's to blame, is very funny to watch. The internet, I think it might eat itself. And all the people who think they are riding this wave to the top will find themselves crashing down to the fucking floor and being either consumed by the masses or what have you. When something like Instagram finally fails, and it will, of course, as all things do, as all things come to an end, when they see a quick buck and they head down this road of trying to police AI, doing a very bad job of it, because they still see money rolling in, and then they see everything fall out from underneath them, then it'd be kind of satisfying. I think if the internet consumes itself, then the people, humanity, that has been given a taste of this now, this level of connection, this tool set, will build something again. And it will basically just be a new internet, hopefully. Or we will return to local communities. That human connection is so important, obviously. It's once you are sheltered and fed and have clean drinking water, the next thing you need is community. And if that goes away, if that gets taken away, we will find it elsewhere. So as these websites become more and more desolate landscapes of noise and bright colors, just endless static, we will turn from that and go, no. And we'll go down to our local poetry nights. Or we will find ourselves on smaller parts of the internet connecting with smaller communities. And perhaps that would be a good thing. AI could be an interesting cleanser. Could be an interesting cleanser of these social media sites that we also desperately despise, while also desperately love and need. Because we need that community. We need the ability to share with one another. We've had a taste of it now. You can't take it away from us. But it's also brain rot. It is also destroying our attention span. It is pulling some communities apart. And it will be interesting to see if AI cleanses that by actually eradicating these platforms, for they cannot possibly survive if their purpose is profit, and if AI steals both profit and also the currency of space and attention for community. Some very scattered thoughts on AI and the death of the internet. I was going to try and frame it in a better way, but then I reminded myself this is not a video essay. This is me rambling on for a little bit. Where do you think we're going? Where do you think we're going to find our community? Is it in the streets? Or is it in a different part of the internet? And are you looking forward to the cleanse? Hey, if you enjoy this podcast, enjoy this episode, then considering chucking me a couple of bucks on Patreon. Or just like and share, comment, yada yada, do all the YouTube things. I guess finally after this little ramble, then talking about give me the attention please, give me the interactions as much as possible. But I'd prefer not to shout into the void, so comment. Be very well. I love ya. I'll talk to you next week.